This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by Next 1000. Dave Ridley here, signing in for ridleyreport.com this March 11th, 2008. Getting a lot of heat from some of my viewers regarding a Ron Paul video that I put up around March 3rd. Video criticizing some of the things Dr. Paul said in his February 11th broadcast, his otherwise very likable February 11th broadcast. You can see a link to the original video in the video description for this clip. Here's the Ron Paul statement I had a problem with.
So my suggestion is just come home and spend all that money at home. Take care of our own people. Take care of our infrastructure before it's too late.
I criticized him for advocating spending that I thought maybe he shouldn't be advocating so much. And here are some of your responses. Wasareta from Japan writes, Hi Rid, no, he's not. He's talking about all the money the military members spend overseas. So he's pretty much saying that Dr. Paul is saying that that our boys in uniform would be spending their money at home instead of overseas. Next 1000. That he's not necessarily talking about government spending coming back home. I don't think that's what Dr. Paul meant from the context of what he's saying, but we'll get to that in a minute. We'll look in the context more closely. Florida, on that note, Florida Ironclad writes, look, why not ask him what he meant instead of coming up with one from your opinion? And in fact, I have done that. I've sent an email to the Ron Paul campaign today, and we'll see if I get a response. If I do get one, I will quote it to my viewers in its entirety. Florida Ironclad continues, taking Ron Paul, quote, taking Ron Paul's comments and turning them around. Sheesh. So, take two bad things, your opinion, that Ron Paul said, and toss him out with the bathwater. Yeah, good idea. Not. Just for the record, I have no interest in tossing Ron Paul out with the bathwater. I think he's the best thing that's happened to American politics in 30 years. But definitely, I'm going to criticize any ideas he has that I don't agree with. All the while planning on writing him in come November 2008, no matter what. Comments overall ran about 3-to-1 negative against my video. I did get a sympathetic message from Dale Everett over at anarchyinyourhead.com. He writes, Dave, you touched the third rail of libertarian politics. Criticizing Ron Paul. You're in trouble now. And another viewer, Esteems, writes a sympathetic message. He said, regarding Paul's idea, he said, bad idea. Paul is a conservative, not a libertarian. He did say spend all that money at home. He's said a lot of things that are unlibertarian, unquote. But in a strange sort of way, being on the receiving end of this kind of criticism is neat because it just reminds me how quick the Ron Paul people are to mobilize and do something when they hear something in the media that they don't like. And of course, I've always experienced it from the other end where I'm writing the media and complaining to them. But kind of experiencing it from the other side, I see the power of it. It's certainly something that can be abused, but I'm glad that our people are out there defending Dr. Paul, even if I don't agree with the defenses in all cases. Now, since one of the accusations against my video is that I took Dr. Paul out of context, let's go ahead and go back and take a look at the context of that quote that I used. Again, the part I took out was where he said, quote, my suggestion is just come home and spend all that money at home, take care of our own people, take care of our infrastructure. Now let's take a look at the whole clip, what he said before and after that one part that I quoted.
Senator McCain claims that we can stay in Iraq for 100 years. Well, we can't. Even if he wants to, we can't because we won't be able to afford it. So my suggestion is just come home and spend all that money at home. Take care of our own people. Take care of our infrastructure before it's too late. This is a powerful message, one that has been well received. It's the message of our campaign in every region of the world while we have to continue this effort.
So to me it seems crystal clear he was talking about government spending, although like I said, I've got a message into the campaign to clarify that. But he says, quote, Senator McCain claims that we can stay in Iraq for 100 years. Well, we can't. Even if he wants to, we can't because we won't be able to afford it. We, pretty clearly, is referring to the government and government spending in Iraq. He says, my suggestion is just come home and spend all that money at home. Sounds like he's talking about the Iraq money to me. Take care of our own people, take care of our own infrastructure, take care of our infrastructure. You know, if he's talking about private activity on that, that would be great. That would be the most wonderful thing to hear in terms of his position. But from the context, it just seems an awful lot like he's talking about government money. And maybe we'll know more if and when I get a response from the campaign. Both sides of that comment, you know, before that one sort of controversial sentence, the prequel to it and the stuff he says afterwards is beautiful. You know, Senator McCain claims that we can stay in Iraq for 100 years. Well, we can't afford it. That's wonderful. Where he says, you know, this is a powerful message and we got to continue this effort. I love that part too. It's just that sentence in the middle there, and the fact that he has talked about this kind of thing before. This is something that's been bothering me for a while. It wasn't just this one sentence. I hear so often him talking about using government money to take care of people, and I see where he's coming from. I realize we can't just pull the rug out from under people who've become dependent on the government, but I urge people to think about what happened to Reagan and what happened to anyone else that ever tried to cut spending, but not immediately. It ended up never happening, and that's something we have to be very cautious about. This is not hypothetical stuff. Sooner or later, one of us, one of the Ron Paul Republicans, will get in the White House, and this discussion will become non-hypothetical and very real. At the same time, I love the spontaneity of Dr. Paul that leads him into maybe getting a little criticism from me. I would rather he had this spontaneous sayings that he's doing, even if maybe people misunderstand him from time to time, or even if it creates concern within the movement. I would much rather have him being spontaneous like this and speaking almost, you know, it seems like sometimes off the top of his head, than being scripted and polished, you know, like a Clinton or a Romney. So the forest still looks beautiful. I just have some concerns about some of the trees. I'm with Dr. Paul to the end, but not on every issue, and not blindly. This is Dave Ridley signing off for ridleyreport.com. Why is it that hundreds of liberty lovers have moved and continue to move to New Hampshire? In part, it's because of the Free State Project's First 1,000 pledge. The success of that pledge gave this man an idea. Max Abramson of New Hampshire is starting what he calls the Next 1,000 Pledge, designed to get another 1,000 Free Staters into New Hampshire by 2011. To find out more, visit pledgebank.com/next1000.